Yesterday, meaning June 6, we celebrated D-Day remembrance. Over 100,000 soldiers on that day, D-Day, fought the first battle to liberate Europe and Germany from the Axis powers. There's a huge reason as to why we call that the greatest generation. And I wish I was part of that generation, regardless of me being African American and regardless of the problems that would have caused me personally as an African American. I would have been privileged to be counted among the greatest generation of soldiers, sailors, Marines who fought for this country, the true heroes of this nation. Unfortunately, we have to fight for this country once again. Now, I don't wear a uniform. I'm not a soldier. And this is not that kind of fight this time. Over 80 years ago, they knew who the enemy was, and they knew what they had to do to defeat him. They knew exactly what was being asked of them, and they were glad to do it and honored to do it. And that's why we call them heroes. That's why we build monuments to them. That's why every time we see a veteran of that day, of D-Day, we shake their hands, we hug them, we say thank you for your service, and we mean that. Because they made the ultimate sacrifices to rid this world of the ultimate evil. That evil, of course, being Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. Now here we are, 80 years later. Now I don't liken this generation that we have before us now to what happened 80 years ago. However, we face a similar threat today, now, 80 years later. Now a friend of mine, one of my Facebook friends, said that his grandfather battled fascism in Europe 80 years ago, one of the 1,000 men who stormed from the beaches of Normandy. I thank him for his service and his friendship. Well, excuse me, I should say, I thank him for his grandfather's service and his friendship. Now, the threat I speak of now here isn't one we can beat with bullets and bombs and blood. I speak of an enemy that can be defeated only by one way and one way only. The ballot box. And this enemy that I speak of, maybe I shouldn't call him an enemy because I don't want any kind of misunderstanding with that. But this enemy that I speak of, for lack of a better word, is Donald Trump. Now let's forget the fact that he's a convicted felon for just a few minutes, although that should be a huge factor into this situation. The first former president ever to be convicted of a crime. But let's put that on the back burner just for a few moments. But look at what this man has done, not just before he became president or after he became president, but after he lost the election in 2020. Instead of walking away after all the challenges failed, instead of saying that I lost the election, but I'm going to try again, he and his supporters have been on a non-stop campaign to tear this country apart. Trump has done nothing to help this country. Usually former presidents stay in the limelight every once in a while, promoting the United States, promoting freedom and everything else around the world. Donald Trump has not done that. All he's done is promote himself, and has done irreparable damage in the process. He's told lie after lie after lie after lie after lie about how this country is so unfair to him, and has completely undermined our country in the process, saying how much it's all been rigged against him, how the election was stolen from him without any kind of evidence, even evidence showing that Donald Trump himself and his supporters tried to steal the election, and has demonstrated behavior of that you would see in criminals. So why do I say that Donald Trump is like the enemy that our soldiers fought 80 years ago? It's because he's espoused the same kind of idiotic fascist rhetoric that Adolf Hitler himself has said, calling immigrants and people who don't look like him, because that's where this is all going, saying that they poison the blood of our country, and making his followers follow suit. I've lost count personally of how many times I've been accused and lied about, all because I'm not a Trump supporter. I've been accused of being a terrorist. I've been accused of being a child molester. All of it because I don't support Donald Trump. And now with this conviction, it's only gotten worse. This persecution complex that Donald Trump has adapted is only going to make things worse at the ballot box. And now with his threats of retribution and revenge, that is the language of fascism, the very thing the greatest generation fought to stop. Now it's our turn, 80 years later. Now, I never wanted to make videos like this, calling a presidential candidate a fascist, warning people of his fascism. But here we are. We're months away from the possibility of America becoming a fascist state under Donald Trump, a man who is consumed by revenge. The same way that Adolf Hitler was consumed by anti-Semitism and hatred, Trump is consumed with getting back at people who wronged him. And it could be a prosecutor, it could be a judge, or it could be just an ordinary citizen walking into the ballot box, voting for the other man instead of him. And he is not too particular who his targets may be. That is why we must oppose him, just as the greatest generation did 80 years ago. We must oppose fascism now. Because Donald Trump doesn't care about freedom in this country. He's shown that in the first 4 years of his presidency. And he's shown it now, every day since, including to the present day, when his ghostwriter posts a condescending tweet, or in this particular case, a post on Truth Social about D-Day that we all know wasn't written by Donald Trump himself, which makes it even more pathetic. The way I see it at this point, Donald Trump is the enemy of America, just as Adolf Hitler was. But instead of the bullets, the bombs, and the blood, we have, in this country, a greater weapon, a stronger weapon that can prevail against them. We have the ballot box. We need to make sure we use that weapon against Donald Trump coming this fall. Our time is running out, and Donald Trump and his supporters have shown me and shown all of you what their intentions really are. Do not let him win. We beat Adolf Hitler. Now it's our turn to beat Donald Trump once and for all. Let us be the new great generation of Americans that stood up against fascism, that stood up against dictatorship, that stood up against Donald Trump. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.